Dun, 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 dun. And it looks like we are live. It says once again.
Oh, good. Hello, TeaFlix, another Tuesday. And today we've got the publisher of my new wonderful book.
The tome itself. We've survived the rain. Thank you for all your concern of everybody.
Yeah.
Martin's had calls from his family in Germany and whatever.
Yeah.
So we haven't slid off the hill yet for moisture, but it's not for one to try and. Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
We only drink early on Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah.
Only on Tuesday.
And doesn't deliver for Amazon on Tuesdays, so she can have a drink. Speaking of delivering for Amazon, if you haven't pre-ordered your book, there are facesiremember.com. Go ahead and do that because it's just a fabulous tome. Stephen Wilson and Imagine and Wonder and Simon Mills and the whole design crew, and Stephen can talk about all the people, have done an amazing job making not only the book, but the box that it slides into.
Yeah, Shannon's wonderful artwork.
And Shannon's wonderful cover. And without further ado, the crowd goes wild and things drop out the ceiling. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way live from New York, Mr. Stephen Wilson of Imagine and Wonder.
Stephen, come on down. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Lovely to be here. I think it looks like we swapped weather with you. We've got your sun, you've got our rain. That's what we've had for the last 2 weeks, and the last 3 days have just been spectacular here in New York.
Well, we've got houses in Beverly Hills sliding down and all sorts of wonderful things.
It's absolutely
It's not sunny California today, I can promise you.
I've actually got my welly by the back
kitchen door. Yeah.
And your galoshes.
Yeah, and an umbrella.
Yeah.
And all of that. Everybody's on. Hello, Ashley. Hello, Kenneth Womack. Hello, Paul. Hello, George. Gosh, folks from all over the world. Rick.
Yeah. Hi, folks.
Thanks for joining in. So today, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing, and I still know bubkiss, as you could say, about the book publishing industry till I started working with this wonderful, crazy human here, Stephen Wilson. And tell us, Stephen, how did you first get into the book business? Because it's such a complicated
Very
deal.
complex, yeah.
Well, way before getting into the book business, I was weaned in England. I was raised in England. And the first real job that I got, which was in publishing, I was 2021, was with a company that many of you will probably have heard of if you buy sheet music, which is Hal Leonard Publishing out of Milwaukee. Yep. And I became their agent in the UK. I actually went for a couple of interviews with them, and I think I was the best of a bad bunch of choices. And they said, all right, we're going to give the only one that could speak American, because I'd just come back from traveling America for about a year. Yep. So everyone else was English, and I was kind of that anomaly, which I had an English accent, but I actually kind of knew a little bit more about how Americans thought. So I actually sold sheet music books for a good part of my first half of my life. I was with Hal Leonard for some 16 years. And then I went to the competition called music sales. Mm-hmm. And what we specialized, both companies specialized in the same thing. It was all about the sheet music. And then music sales had a division called Omnibus Press.
Oh, yes.
Really, anyone who's bought a music book has probably got an Omnibus Press book in their collection. And I just got, it was my moment. I found the product I like to sell, and I did it for the best part of 30 years between the two companies.
Wow.
So fast forwarding, not to take too much time about the past.
No, I'm interested.
I then went to work for another publisher, which really taught me about big coffee table, beautifully packaged books, and that's a company called Quarto. Again, those of you in England might know the company. They're great about creating product and then doing it in multiple languages for different distributors around the world. So it gave me a complete different reference from having selling sheet music books and rock biographies and rock history books. Suddenly I stepped into anything and everything, from how to crochet to
good God,
backyard farming. I mean, they were much more of an earth type of publisher, and a constant flow of products would come through them. And so I was with them for a number of years. And
was that always in New York?
No, actually the company was out of Rockport. I was in New York. The company was based out of Rockport, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And as far as I was concerned, we had an office in New York City. I was with them for a number of years. My mentor was a man by the name of Mel Shapiro. He was everything you think about, the quintessential guy smoking a big cigar at lunchtime in a club. With
nice, sounds like a nice Irish fella.
I like a nice Irish fella. And, you know, Mel he was a legend in the book industry about how to do everything else in the book business, how to sell closeout books, how to build really large, substantial print runs, know when to cut it off because too many is too many. So I learned a lot of different tricks of the trades from him. And then, you know, as you want to try something else, I ended up leaving that company and joining a Japanese publisher called Gakken. And Gakken, I think Scholastic in the US Gakken is the same in Japan.
Okay.
And we were launching their activity books and bringing them over to the USA. And we had a great start. First year, I think we broke over $1 million in sales. So it was pretty great start to the arrival of that company here. But then, unfortunately, a bigger arrival was COVID. And that stopped everyone's journeys in their tracks. And in my instance, everything that was coming from Japan kind of stopped. Yeah. So after a few weeks of no direction and no clarity of what's going to be next, I figured it was time to move on. And the true story is you always have to go and talk to the boss, which is my wife. And we sat down and said, well, you know people that have got books and you know people that buy books. Go find a way to sell something that we don't have and find your way in the market. So I, in a fit of madness, founded Imagine and Wonder with some good help from my friend Simon Mills.
Yep.
When was that? What year did you open?
We actually started, we're just over 2 years old. We're really not that old. We're coming into our third year.
Oh, really?
Imagine and Wonder.
Yeah.
So some of the war stories that we as publishers go through, everything is about when did the book arrive? You promised it for August the 1st, and meantime, it's still sitting in a printer's facility on the other side of the planet in China, and there's embargoes on shipments. So I started at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
And I really did. I got very carried away with building the list, which was children's books, and then fortunately some wonderful Beatles books. We'll come back to those. And then I couldn't get my product from China. So I left two containers. I left 2 containers there for a year in storage, and I bought 2 containers over here. And in that time, I moved my distribution to a company called IPG in Chicago. So the book that you get when you go into your favorite bookstore, it's a long journey to get there. Sometimes on the other side of the world. We print in a number of different, we print in Canada, the US, and China. We ship to anywhere from either our own facility here in the US or from the Chinese printers, if it so warrants it.
Complicated, isn't it?
Very complicated.
And then if you turn it around the other way, when you go to your bookstore, your buyer somewhere in that bookstore's back room made a buy 6 months earlier to say, I want to carry your book in the store.
Wow.
6 months from now.
It's quite, it's a convoluted process that can sometimes, I always say we're working a 9-month calendar, 9 months in advance to hit hit a 6-month window cycle, January to June or July to December. And so I started Imagine and Wonder. I made calls to a few people that were foolish enough to say, well, I've got some books that aren't sold in the US. And that started my children's line off. And then Simon Mills, who we've mentioned a couple of times. Simon was a self-published author and under the name and brand Sir Rhymes a Lot. And we ended up publishing around 25 books under his print.
They're great. They're really
fabulous.
great children's books. Beautifully illustrated, and the poetry's fabulous.
Yeah. So if you look behind me, there's 2 things on the wall behind me. On the right side, we're going to talk more about There Are Faces I Remember in much more depth, because that's the exciting thing of the moment. And then on the other side are some of the books that we published over the last 2 years. And you'll see there's Beatles books on that screen. There's Penguin books on that screen. There's Carl Mullenberg, who's a Broadway producer. We were trying a lot of everything. Someone would say, I've got a great idea for a book. And everyone knows a friend who knows someone who wants to write a book.
A book.
Yep.
Right.
So you learn to become a little more picky and choosy as you start to figure out what do you want to publish. So I knew I wanted to do children's books that had messages in them.
Yep.
Those messages could be about dealing with the bully, a kid dealing with a bully at school, afraid of the dark,
Yeah.
being ousted from a group or ousted from a crowd. But we tell it through animals. So maybe it's a herd of elephants and they oust one of their own because he broke the tribe's rules of the elephants or the herd.
Yep.
And so we started to build a really nice list. And once you're out there and people can see, well, these guys know how to make books, other doors open up.
And they're beautiful quality. Yeah. That's one of the things I've enjoyed about working with you, is that you don't cut corners for the amount of profit. You could make a lot more profit on every book if you did it cheapy flimsy. But I mean, when we were doing this, the Ticket to Ride, it's a beautiful hardcover bound.
Yeah, I love the quality of the copy of the outside too.
Where did you finish up getting this? Was this printed in China as well?
It was, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
on the back of this, we also have an ad for another one of your products, the posters, right?
That's correct. We've looked at posters, we've looked at puzzles. Depending on what the trend is, every year it changes so quickly.
Yes.
So sometimes by the time you've jumped in, you've made the product and you've shipped it to America, even if you printed it in America, that's a 6-month time scale. Yeah. And so that 6 months is always over you. If you miss it, you do. Right. And you're never too early. You never get things in too early. It rarely happens in our business.
So what was the first Beatles book that Imagine and Wonder published?
So the very first thing that I did, I'm going to scooch around and grab one. Oops. I should have had one right in my hands.
That's all right. You need a stretch.
Oh, definitely. We're a long way from the 7th inning stretch yet. We'll get there in a moment. So a very good friend of mine and Ruth and Angie's is this gentleman, Bruce Spicer. And Bruce, I consider to be a privilege to know him because he is truly one of the greatest historians. I mean,
he really is. Yes.
Remembers from 30 years ago and exactly what happened in the next half an hour is astonishing.
Yeah.
And Bruce publishes his own book. He does a deep dive review of a Beatles album every year. And what we did with this title, we ended up taking 4 different books that he had published, and they're available in the market as well. And we decided to do a sort of a gift offering slipcase where you've got the 4 albums, the White Album, Let It Be, Sgt. Pepper's, and Get Back. And they're deep dives into exactly what was happening when the album was recorded, who was in the studio, who was hanging out with who, some of the, not so much, we don't tend to write scandal, but fact about relationships and who was there and how someone met. So Bruce really, we had never actually worked together. We've just been friends for the longest time. He'd always come and visit me when he was in New York. And I said, what can we do together? So we threw around some ideas, and this is what came out of it. And it was a real labor of love. It was actually a lot of work converting his books from hardbacks to paperbacks, designing the case, getting the case here. And then, of course, there's a tremendous weight with these things. So everything has to be taken into consideration.
Well, but, that's the interesting thing about any business, but especially the creative business, is that what might seem like a giant pain in the ass at one time, that experience and that knowledge will come back to help you. And I'm sure everything you learned on Bruce's books and the slipcases went into There Are Faces I Remember, right?
Particularly finishes. We used a particular vinyl finish on the cover, and we had basically the album on the cover, and it feels like vinyl. So we look at a lot of things that are doing well in the marketplace to get other ideas, and then we sit down and say, where can we incorporate that in our titles?
Right.
I tell you what, I was wondering, when did you first become aware of the Beatles? And, what was your reaction to them?
How old were you?
How old were you? Yeah.
I wear my badge of honor with my age. I'm, in my 60s. I would say around 64, 65, I was just getting to that teenage age moment. And they were, one minute they weren't there, and the next minute they were everywhere. Wherever you went to someone's house, they had the radio on, they were playing Beatles songs. And never had the privilege of meeting any of them. But I'm a huge Paul fan, and I've seen Wings over America, last night at Soldier Fields, many Wings concerts over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ringo in some of the other bands that he sat in and played with as well, with Roy Orbison and Traveling Wilburys.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, I just were you in England when you were
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
hadn't moved
I had no ideas I was going to ever move much out of Hendon, to be quite honest.
What age were you when you came to America?
I came to America to travel America as kind of figuring out, severing the umbilical cord with your parents and just wanting to go travel. And I actually traveled America for almost a year, starting in New York, down to Florida, drove across to California, back to New York. And I went, one of my best friends, we were kind of vagabonds on the streets, and just we stopped in a lot of places, met incredible people. And once I went back to England, I always knew that I would probably end up in America. It would just, I felt more, much as I'm a Londoner, you'll never take that out of me. I feel much more at home here in the US, and I've been here for, well over 30 years now. So I've been here a long time.
Yeah, we came in 1983.
Oh, I'm 84.
Okay, so about the same time, and did various odd jobs and this, that, and the other. And then after a while, Angie finished up working for a gentleman called Michael Rollins at Hollywood.com. And the head honcho there was a gentleman who's watching today called Stuart Halper, and who's married to Stephen's sister. How small is that?
I know. Hello, Stephen. I saw you tuning in. Hi there.
That's Stuart, yeah.
I'm getting me Stevens.
Me Stewart's and me Stevens.
I was thinking.
Yeah, isn't that funny that when I found out Stuart Halperin was my Angie's old boss and your brother-in-law, it was like, oh, well, we have to Imagine a Wonder. It's family. It's a done deal.
I know. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Funny. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. So how many Bruce Spicer books are there? How many albums has he covered?
So Bruce has been publishing, I don't want to speak for him, I'm sure well over 20 years, maybe over 30 years.
No, but in the Imagine a Wonder format,
Yeah, so his books were always the history of either behind the recording studios, the albums, very important, the running order of what is on each album, the selection process. And we ended up doing the 4-volume set. We just released the 5th volume, which is Yellow Submarine,
right?
Which we'll have at the show in a few days' time, which we'll talk more about as well. And then we did, as we got talking, you told me about Angie's book, which was Ticket to Ride. So we did that book, which I think definitely came out one of the nicest books that we've done, and really a great tour value book, because you get a free ebook of the book, so you don't have to carry the printed book with you if you're coming over to Liverpool and going to see the sites. You can use your phone and your ebook to be able to travel around.
You also get QR codes if you do have the book with you. You get the QR codes.
So there are the main cities that the Beatles' career happened in, which was obviously Liverpool, London, Hamburg, LA, and New York. Those cities and where the Beatles went in the heyday are all covered in the book.
Yeah. And then, of course, I introduced you to the wonderful Judith Kristen, whose amazing illustrator Eric Cash had some books that you adopted and turned around, right? So one of my favorite novels, Judith Kristen's, we have to have her on again. She tells an incredible story in the book, My Date with the Beatles. She is a George freak. And she escaped her parents and went to a gig and found herself in the right hotel at the right time and stepped into the elevator. And I'll leave the rest to you. You should buy the book. Go to imagineawonder.com. It's a great read.
It is a good read.
And Eric designed the cover, and then they worked together again on their wonderful Beatles children's book, which sort of it introduces children to the Beatles, which I think is an absolutely charming idea.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's called When We Was Fab. And
When We Was Fab.
And it really is an insight. It's an insight into them growing up as boys. Boys will be boys. They're teens in Liverpool. Yeah. And way back in the 60s, one of the big things was you had face masks on the top of a lolly stick. And there was one of John, George, Paul, and Ringo. And I'm not going to say who I actually was, but it was a big thing. Wherever you went out, everyone always had these Beatle face masks with them. And we actually have the original artwork because Eric Cash created those. So we were able to have those included in the book as well. So we like the trivia stories behind the trivia stories. It's the detail of how things came to being.
The Easter eggs, as we call them, eh?
The Easter eggs, the golden hunt.
That's right. Well, and that's what There Are Faces I Remember is full of. And, some people have asked, and well, how come, Stuart Sutcliffe's not in it?
Well, I never met Stuart.
Right. So that's the criteria when
I know a lot about him, and I was very friendly with Pauline, his sister.
Lovely lady.
Who passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And her partner, Diane, who's still carrying on with the legacy, working with
the Stuart Sutcliffe estate.
Yes, that's right.
Because Stuart was quite an artist.
Bedford, I believe,
and
quite a bit.
I think that Stuart's art was really way ahead of its time.
Oh,
he was kind of Jackson Pollock-y before there was a Jackson Pollock in that scene. I don't mean chronologically, but he was very avant-garde and really marvelous stuff. And Diane, when Pauline passed away, she vowed to just keep the name and the legacy and everything going. So she's doing yeoman's work with all of that. It's incredible. David Bedford's got an amazing book, the 101 Fabs. I'm paraphrasing. It's a big book like Angie's, and it's sort of a family tree of all of the musicians. It's like the opening of the Immediate Family documentary, and it's all of the, like Colin Hanton was in the Quarrymen, but he was also in so-and-so with such and such a musician, and then blah, 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 blah. And it's incredible that the 101 musicians, that the original Fab 4 became Fab 5, became Fab 6 with, when Stuart died, and then Pete Best left and Ringo came in, and then Billy Preston joined. So, there are a number of Beatles outside the core. And all of the people within the music industry that they've reached, it's just fascinating, which is basically the sort of the genesis of the idea. We were sitting outside here in the sun one day probably about 3 years ago now. And I said, okay, Ange, what's your next book going to be? And she's got all of her diaries still from 1960s and 70s.
They've traveled around the world with me.
And I'm like, why don't you go through and make a list of people that you've interacted with in the Beatles universe? And there turned out to be 168 of them.
And I've thought of a few more since, so there might be volume 2.
Simon will kill you. You have to add to the ebook.
So, I think the fascinating story is how we started working on this project maybe 2.5 years ago. You had the idea. You had already created some of the digital art. You were, Angie, had, obviously your diaries. You got lots of notes and hundreds and hundreds of stories to cull from. But it was really a very fluid how everything came together in the end. Because we never, if someone had said 2 years ago, what you're looking at for the book is what you're going to get, I don't think we had that vision when we started the project. It's sort of the project, different things happened to us. One of I think the nicest things, I got to meet Shannon, who's really good friends with Ruth and Angie. And, we were wrestling with what should go on the cover. Yeah. And Shannon had this incredible painting. Well, it's actually, it is a painting.
It is.
Of John, George, Paul and Ringo. And it's a stunning work. And she said, well, I'll do something for Angie. I'd love her to use one of my images for the cover of your book, and so that's how that happened. And
as a complete amateur I took art class in school when I was 14, and I sucked badly at it. But as a complete amateur who was just learning Photoshop and Illustrator and Wacom tablets and digital pixel moving and layering and all of that stuff, I just can't believe, I'm gobsmacked that I'm in the same publication with Shannon, who is, the world's greatest Beatle artist, as designated by the Lord Mayor of Liverpool and sanctioned by Apple all those years ago. I mean, it's just like, it's kind of like, I don't know if you watch the Grammys on Sunday night, but Luke Combs' favorite song has been Tracy Chapman's "You Got a Fast Car," and he got to sing it with her, and I was
great, very moving. Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, Luke Combs is having a me moment when I found out that Shannon agreed to do our cover in the book that contains all my, first attempt at digital art. So it's really a thrill for me.
Well, I think from the first attempts, and there were some that I remember we went through early on that didn't quite cut the mustard, and you could kind of see some things weren't quite working. But by the time we got to how big is this book going to be, we had grown, because we originally planned the book to be probably maybe 150 to 200 pages. And the next thing we know, we've got 264 pages, another 100 pages on top of it, which when you actually buy the book, you get a free access through one of the QR codes, and you get the digital ebook of around 50 characters that did not make it into the main printed book. but you still get the same treatment, the same questions and answers from them. I think it's a good, and one of the things I love is how you kind of have your celebrity questionnaire when you sit down with the questionnaire. Do you want to just share that with everybody? Because anyone who hasn't actually seen the book or been included in the book.
Yes, I think. Can you turn up a page, Ruth?
Yeah, we just asked people 5
Well,
questions.
I asked people, first of all, how did you first experience the Beatles? What age and so forth? And then I asked them,
What's your favorite song?
yeah, how have they influenced your
So
life?
Pamela Des Barres, who is also an incredible writer, she's still got a New York Times bestseller after 25 years I'm with the band. There's our dear friend Pamela. I painted her like a flower power hippie person. So the questions were, when did you first become aware of the Beatles? And, I won't read it all, but I was the ripe and ready age of 14 when the Fabs landed in America, and it was never the same again. I'd loved rock and roll since Elvis, and it scared the bejesus out of the adult population with his dangerous wriggling and seductive snarl. So in the some of the people in the book who were alive, who were able to answer our 5 questions, it's sort of like 2 sides of the story. You get Angie's story of how her relationship is with this person, and then their answers about how their relationship is with the Beatles, and then my visual digital interpretation of how I sort of perceive that person, So it's not in every single one. Of course, a lot of people.
The idea was from Stephen Colbert, who has a blue card.
Colbert questionnaire. What's your favorite sandwich?
Apples or oranges, cats or dogs.
Yeah.
But this was more specific about, your relationship and interest with the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I got some really very interesting answers too.
Yeah, we this being Black History Month, there's a funny story to tell. We received an invitation to a birthday party downtown LA through some business connections of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And it was October 2012, and it was held at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown LA. And he didn't really know us from Adam. I'd been introduced to the Reverend a couple of times, but he saw Angie
wondered rather, didn't we, why we were being invited,
and
particularly.
He saw us coming in, and Angie was given a seat because it was a standing room only. And somebody whispered in his ear, "This is Mrs. McCartney." Well, I think he got a little mixed up. It was probably prior to his current health situation being public. And I think he thought that Angie was actually old enough to be Paul's real mother. He didn't get the stepmother bit because he was in the middle of giving a speech. So he drags Angie up on the stage and he says,
"We've got Mama McCartney in the audience."
He raises a hand like a prize fighter. And he's Mama McCartney, she wouldn't let her boys play to segregated audiences. Big round of applause for the freedom fighter.
Mama McCartney.
Oh
dear.
No.
No, I'm a stepmother.
Had nothing to do with it, but he was just so excited to be able to weave the Beatles into his speech. But that's how ubiquitous they are.
Yeah.
This is the painting I created of him. I don't know where I'm holding it, but
yep, that's good.
Yeah, so that was it was a night to remember. You get dragged on stage to call the freedom fighter, and
Martin still teases me about that and says, "Come here, freedom fighter. What's for dinner tonight?"
But yes, Diana's Can We Still Purchase? It's only it's pre-order. Diana, go to therearefacesiremember.com and pre-order. There are only 1,001 being pressed, so this is a collector's item from the get-go.
Yeah. And I can share with you exactly where the book is at right now. It's in a container somewhere between the other side of the world and the US.
Yep.
We have a confirmed in ETA today that the boat will actually land March 5th. Great. And we're taking over a small warehouse that I have access to here in New York so that we can start getting the early orders out really quickly. So I would say first 2 weeks of March, everyone will be getting their copies.
Well, it's only a month from now, isn't it? 5 weeks, maybe?
Yes.
Yep.
6.
And we're officially launching the book at Beatlefest with Mark Lapidus and his team. So we'll have a bunch of the books there. Ruth and Angie, at one point, were going to come, and then for a whole bunch of reasons, it was going to be too complicated. So we will have scheduled meet times in the booth where you can come by and zoom in and ask your questions of Ruth and Angie.
we'll
post
let
those.
everybody know when the time is.
We'll be
sorted.
available on this coming Saturday via Zoom at Stephen's booth, and we'll let you know on social media when that is
What
and
time?
whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark Firestone just joined us.
Hello,
talking about
Mark.
Oh, hello,
just
Mark.
another small world. Do you remember Ashley Davey brought Mark and his
That's
lady
right.
to dinner?
Yes, yes.
Well, Mark is an old friend of Stephen's.
Oh,
But
really?
he and I, we haven't spoken to each other for a while. We sort of reconnected, and he said, "Oh, I just had dinner with Ruth and Angie." And I said, "How do you know Ruth and Angie?" I mean, we've lived in different worlds completely, and then all of a sudden, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I know Ashley Davey originally because of Frida Kelly.
Yeah.
I met him when there was the launch of Frida Kelly's video, her documentary, Good Old Frida, in Liverpool. And Ashley was there. And he's always been a great supporter of Frida.
Yeah.
And in fact, he's going to see her this weekend at Mark.
At the fest.
Yeah.
By
Mark
the way,
Davis's fest.
Joanne's asking why are there only 1,000? It's 1,001 copies. We had a request from a amazing book collector and blogger called John Bazzini. He collects the last in every series, not the first one.
Yeah.
And so Stephen was able to scramble and call the printing press in China and have them press one more, which is kind of separate to the run. But every single one of these books comes with, we spent 2.5 days signing our old family picture.
1,000 of them. Yeah,
and 1,001. And then every one has an individual number on the back and a QR code that you scan that takes you to fun and interesting places. Hello,
you get
Albert
to do
from
my
Illinois.
laundry for a week if you've got one of those.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. And 3 of the books, number 9, number 64, and number 710, it explains in the book, if your picture has one of those 3 numbers on the back, you win fabulous gifts and prizes. So you have to get in touch with us to find out what. So it really are a lot of little Easter eggs and things in it. And so that's why, Joanne, there's only 1,000 printed, because like anything that's a collector's item, you don't want to go on ad infinitum. You see, I made that rhyme.
You made that. That was good. That was
good. Oh, maybe we should write a poetry book, maybe some limericks or something.
Oh, I heard someone has written some limericks. Or am I mistaken?
No, you are. You are not mistaken. You have heard that. So you're going to be at Beetle Fest at the Imagine and Wonder booth. Look for this fabulosity behind Stephen here.
Yeah, it's so when you actually, if you're coming to New York, it's at the TWA Hotel, which is a spectacular new hotel. Has a channel, has a JetBlue terminal right in the ground floor area of the hotel. Yep. And there's a place called the Marketplace. I'll give everybody the details. It's the Marketplace, top floor of Landmark Hall. And it will be there for 3 days. And I can tell you, you will find things to buy there. I've never yet gone to a Beetle Fest and didn't buy something else that I should not have bought, but I really wanted to add to the collection. Yeah. That Mrs. Wilson knows nothing about. It's hiding in one of my closets here in my office.
Well, she does now if she does
now
watching.
She's watching.
And she probably does now.
So Ashley Davey, our dear friend and good old Frida Backer, is going to come and say hi to you at the fest.
Yes. And Frida Kelly is too.
And there you go. Yeah. So Karen, thank you. How are you doing over in Culver City, my dear? I saw a flood evacuation possibility for Culver City, which is no fun. But I'd say come over here for a cup of tea, but Culver Boulevard's closed, so we're screwed on that one. Yes, Elizabeth. I hope you get number 9 too, because you'll make it go viral. I know you will. She's a social media genius, just like Sammy.
Yeah, I believe your other books have arrived.
Maybe we should have 3 anonymous prizes at random that at some point we pick, and we have 3 anonymous prizes down the road.
Yeah, you never know.
Because I know you always like to have more surprises.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if life isn't full of surprises, it gets a tad dull, does it not?
Absolutely.
So
on
you
the
will
subject
be
of limericks.
on the subject of limericks. We always. Well, Diana, this is an interesting thing. Diana's saying I'll be seeing the fest online virtual tickets. I know they're selling virtual tickets, but I don't think we're part of that. I don't have a schedule for it yet. Anyway, but if
we get onto them.
If they ask us, we'll be there.
Okay.
But
a few days to check everything out, make sure everything's working.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, it'll be an absolutely outrageous fest, I'm sure, this year. So much to celebrate.
Elizabeth's saying she'll pay me for the comment that she's a social media genius. I only accept Bitcoin, darling. So,
I take Medicare.
Social media genius working with you, and we want to meet that lady.
Well, I'm one.
We know that.
And so Elizabeth, Sammy's amazing. She runs Edgar Winter's World online. And Elizabeth is a great evangelist for all the McCartney brands. So we're blessed to have talented other digital divas in our lives. So Paul Moody, are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably with a nice cold beer? Paul always tunes in to hear the limerick, and our very special guests get the limerick. So
Okay.
I'll be honest, couldn't find anything to rhyme with Wilson. So it's, it's just, it's meant with love, but here we go. So a 1, 2, and 3. Thanks, Stephen, for being our guest and telling of what you do best. Your skill never fails. Loved hearing your tales. We know you'll be great at the fest.
Ta-da!
That's brilliant.
There you go.
There you are, in glorious black and white.
Yes, indeed. So go look for Stephen and spread the love and spread the word. And you can go to therearefacesiremember.com, find Angie's books there. And you can find Ticket to Ride either on her tea website, Mrs. McCartney's Teas, or Imagine and Wonder. And I'd go for a wander through Imagine and Wonder, because Bruce Spicer's books are there.
Bruce has a booth there as well, and
Bruce will be at the fest.
Yes, and Judith Crystal will be at the fest, won't she?
Yeah, I'm so sorry to be missing it, but the doctor's an idiot. He wants her to die healthy.
Well, the one thing that I would like to say, you always refer to some of the things you do as work. And when I started Imagine and Wonder, which was literally a pea of an idea, I didn't really think it was going to come to reality. The whole privilege of being able to do that is to make somebody else's dreams come true when it comes to making their book, getting their book. That video, if you haven't seen it, we should circulate it again, and we'll put it up on our site. We have our own site called therearefacesiremember.com. And the one beautiful thing about everything that we tried to show is it was all created by one big happy family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to the office or getting Ruth's string of emails at about 11 o'clock at night, which is usual, thanks to the time zone difference. To me, it's a privilege. I have had such a pleasure working with you guys for the last 2 years. We've known each other a little over 3, I think, almost since the beginning of COVID. And I can't wait to see what we're going to do next. But we have some ideas which I think will follow on soon from There Are Faces I Remember. And I hope you all get your copies of the book. It is truly a walk down People Lane. It's really a walk down. You'll know everyone in the book, and then there are some that you think, oh my gosh, I've forgotten about that person. And then you get to find out about them.
Yeah, that's why we had the add-on book. I kept thinking of more people.
Right. We just couldn't make it any more than 5 pounds in weight or any more pages. So
we'll find ways to do a volume 2 if there's a volume 2 in you.
Simon came up with, well, why don't we just do an ebook add-on for the official owners? And there you go. So that's what we did. Thank God for QR codes, because we can let people in with the secret key who own the book.
Which actually barely existed right after COVID. You know, they were one of the byproducts of COVID, that all of a sudden everything we do via our QR codes.
Right. Well, I mean, they've been around. The Dentsu Wave Corporation started them in 1987. And there's no copyright or trademark on the process. And the backstory is really interesting on QR codes. The regular barcode, which is just stripes, when Toyota started using OEMs or, third-party manufacturers like Recaro seats and Bose stereos and this, that, and the other, in order to export the cars in crates, they had to have all of these barcodes for customs and excise to scan to say, well, what's supposed to be in this vehicle, and what's it worth, and what's the tariff and the tax. So some genius at the shipping company and Dentsu, the advertising agency, said, well, what if we stack one barcode like this, and one barcode like that, and then the next one like this, and the next one like that, and create a program that's called a quick response QR code. But that back in the day, you had to have a special expensive NEC scanner. You couldn't do it with your phone. So yeah, Stephen, you're right. After COVID, Apple and Samsung quickly jumped up and said, oh, we'll make these work with photo apparatus and cameras on phones. But we started a company called Connect Code Media 15 years ago, which we ultimately wound up into Remax, doing QR codes for virtual house tours. And that was 12 years ago? But of course, it didn't work because nobody knew what they were and didn't have the app. So here we are.
How fast things change.
Yes, how fast
absolutely.
they do. Absolutely. Oh, that's so funny. So Elizabeth's father has the same birthday as me. He's turning 90 on the 15th of Feb. Sammy's saying she was supposed to be born on that day, but the mom's doctor was going to be out of town, so she was induced early and was born on the day the music died. So there you go. Hello, David from Oban, Scotland. She didn't say crap once today.
Oh, no.
Indeed,
Oh, crap,
indeed.
crap. I forgot to say crap.
Absolutely.
That's my friend who has a crapometer.
He counts Angie's
Yeah.
number of times she says
When I
crap
used to
every
do a weekly radio show with Liverpool with Pete
Price.
Price, I always used to use the word crap, and then I'd say, "Is it okay to say crap?" And
on the
Pete would
radio.
always say,
And he'd say,
well,
no.
you've done it now, you know. So David evolved this little machine, and it's like a metronome, you know, with it.
Angie's crapometer.
Yeah, Angie's crapometer.
There you go. We should be selling. We should be selling.
That
those
might
at
be
the
one of
fest.
the mystery prizes.
Yes.
Copy of the crapometer.
Well, you have a safe trip to the fest, and
Yes.
thank you to Jack Lipsky for all of his help too.
Jack, everyone's got to have a Jack in the box. Jack, do you want to
Oh, absolutely.
say a quick hello? He's here.
Is he
Hello,
here?
Jack.
Hello, Jack. Hi.
He's actually been holding the stand up behind me for the last hour, so it doesn't fall over.
Oh no!
Oh.
Good grief! I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Well,
Jack-
thank you, darling, for
Yeah.
all your help and goodwill, and you were a big
have
part
a
of
great
this.
time at the fest.
Yeah,
Of
you're.
course, thank you. And
We will
it's
too.
been amazing to be a part of this program and this product. And when I jumped on board with Steve, I never really expected to be thrown into this world that, it seems so far away and so big compared to what everything else I've been through in my life. So this is just, I'm blessed to be a part of this, and thank you for bringing me
Oh,
on board.
pleasure. Absolute
Thank you
pleasure.
from my heart to your hearts. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
including me.
Okay, boys.
It was really a privilege and an honor, and I hope we get to do another one.
Thank you.
Tell the story about the whole history of what happens to your new book once it hits the streets.
Oh, that's a point.
All righty then.
You'll
All
get
right,
you'll get updates every day from me. You know that.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. We'll see you all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. God bless.
Thanks, Jack.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Stephen.
Thanks so much.